Welcome to the Elite Power Moves podcast, where we unlock the secrets to level up in all areas of life. I'll be interviewing some of the world's top performers in their fields so that you can uncover and learn the strategies that have led to their overall success and apply it to your own life. Julian, welcome to the Elite Power Moves podcast, mate, all the way from the US, where we interview the world's top performers in their field so our listeners can uncover their secrets and adapt them to their own life. Julian, I wanted to get stuck straight in because our listeners are high achievers and they want to hear data. So what's the most common blind spot leaders don't even realize they're carrying when it comes to stress?
I might be a broken record on this, and we're going to talk about this. My biggest blind spot, which I think is the same blind spot, is when I was asked, "Hey, are you stressed? Do you have stress in your life?" I'd say, occasionally it comes up every so often. And what I was referring to is very high critical touch points, right? Like a very big pitch or a very big meeting. A couple times I had to talk to members of Congress over some really important policy work here in the United States. Those were some really big meetings. Maybe there's a high level pitch that my company needed to close, an investor call that we needed to close up, finish out a round. Some of those, I would call that stress. So when the question was asked, are you stressed? I'd point to these really high episodes. What I didn't realize was my biggest blind spot, and something we do here at EPM Legacy here, is we show and we reflect and see how day to day, how much stress is in your day to day, right? And how do you respond? How does your body respond to an email? How does your body respond to a meeting that you're about to go into? How does your body respond generally? My biggest blind spot that I did not realize was when I would get an email, when I'd get a phone call, when I would go type an email, when I needed to respond to something, how my body, again, didn't realize it, how my body was responding. My body was responding as a stress response. You talked about the vagus nerve, you talked about interconnectedness, and absolutely the whole body is not, the body isn't isolated systems, it's all interconnected. So when I'd go write that email, my body would start to respond. My digestive would either start speeding up, slowing down. I'd start to feel bloated. I'd start to feel all kinds of things. And it was my body trying to distract me from the thing that I was doing. So we talk a lot about, I'm sure these high performers have seen what we've seen here at EPM Legacy is that a lot of them have this common trait of ADD or ADHD. As Gabor Mate says, it's a PTSD response. It's a trauma response. And so if I'm writing an email that's making me uncomfortable, right? My body knows I'm uncomfortable. So it's trying to distract me and trying to protect me. So it might might make my digestive system do a couple things. It might make my body do a little things. One of the other things that I would experience is I get really exhausted. I get really tired. I need a nap. Right. And man, as a CEO performing, man, it was very disruptive. It used to eat up. I would time it. It would eat up from start to finish, meaning by the time I'd fall asleep, by the time I'd wake up, how long the nap was before I was tasked and how long I was tasked. My naps were 45 minutes. They were really taking up a big chunk, and that's 45 minutes during a regular workday, right? Some people use coffee to dissuade, to push and suppress that. I luckily had never used coffee, or I don't use caffeine in my life. So I would have to take that nap or else I couldn't function because I was just there. So what I wasn't realizing, right, my biggest blind spot, again, the thing that we do here at EPM Legacy is to help you show you how stress is affecting you. And it's this nuanced stress. It's how your body's responding to day-to-day stress. And what we do is we help reveal that to you. And then what we do is we hyper-focus in on it, rewrite it. So that same email, it's still important. It's still critical. That pitch is very critical. That meeting is incredibly critical. That investor call is incredibly critical. Closing that deal is incredibly critical. But your body does not respond to stress in that way. And it gives you all your faculties to show you and give you not only what you thought you had 100%, man, you're operating at like maybe 70%. We can give you that extra 30.
Yeah. It's so common to see people thinking they're operating at 100%. And I guess going back to what you said, like just the normal everyday, say executive, if they have to have 45 minutes out of say an 8 hour day and they're getting paid the hourly rate's $1,000 an hour, if you add that up over a year, it compounds. So these tiny little hacks are obviously important. And
And
I,
what I find, by the way, I want to interrupt you because you're talking about something really great there. Most of the time, executives actually don't take a nap because they can't. They have to get stuff done. I was a little different. I had to take the nap because I wasn't using caffeine. And what's happening is this is why I ended up here is because I my body didn't necessarily fully break down. What we're seeing with executives is their bodies are breaking down because they've suppressed for so long all these things through caffeine, through different medications, through different things that they've used in their lives to keep them functioning at this highest level. So what we're offering here at EPM, we're offering an executive to get back to themselves, get back in touch with their body so that they don't burn out. So many of the executives we meet, it's like, I mean, they're about to quit their jobs. They're about to they're going through a divorce. I mean, life is breaking down by the time they get to us, or their body's breaking down. And, in your 30s and into your 40s, you can kind of swing it. But by your 50s and 60s, man, diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, your body's starting to break down. And
yeah.
so um, I was very lucky. My body never broke down because I did nap. But man, man, how many millions of dollars have I wasted napping?
It's so the way I like to explain it with the men we work with, like the men come in, they think they're, 70%, but they're actually running on 5% battery. And they can't fathom taking on anything else while they're climbing the mountain of success. And going back to caffeine and just a bit of science for caffeine. So men that use caffeine to perk up their energy, caffeine actually doesn't give you energy as we know. It just blocks the neurotransmitter called adenosine. And obviously adenosine gradually increases during the day to say it's time to release, melatonin and get into a good sleep pattern, which is obviously going to lead into the next day of like, you're going to be more focused. You're going to be more rested. You're going to make better decisions. You're going to be a better leader, better husband, and you're going to have more presence with your family. And I feel like it's that, like leading back to the first question, it really comes down to emotional intelligence. Like as you can see, when we're tracking our guys' whoop bands and we actually have access to their strain and recovery, we can see their weekly reports and we can see where stress is at the highest and start to obviously identify to them that this meeting or these emails and these certain tasks that you're doing are actually draining your energy, like you said before. And I think that a lot of them, they know what they need to do, but they're not emotionally connected to themselves, which means they can't be emotionally connected to their families, which is the biggest common issue that we do see. Julian, I've got a follow-up. Next question. Julian, your career bridges the growth hacking, leadership, psychology, and personal productivity. How do you define the relationship between mindset optimization and sustainable performance under pressure? As we know, most of our men have high pressure lives.
Yeah, they do. They do. And it's always important to recognize that a lot of the critics, a lot of judgment gets passed to these executives that this is something that they've chosen, this is what they do, and really is they don't really have a choice. This is them. So my journey is really interesting. I started uh, in the early 2000s in digital marketing and kind of expanded from there. But I just really recognized I started to observe my patterns and ultimately ultimately it led me down a life of chronic disease where actually I almost lost my life to chronic disease. And I felt very impacted by the healthcare system here in the US. I really don't even think we have much of a healthcare system here. I think we have a sick care system here in the US. So, when I started looking at my habits and when I started looking at what was going on, I started to realize that, hey, there's something else going on. So the first 5 years of my journey was just getting my body healthy, right? But I still felt, and I would tell the people I was working with who were trying to coach me, I'd say, like, look, I think I've got another 30% left. Something else was going on and I couldn't figure it out. And it was one day my labs were looked at, every test. I mean, I've tested everything. I've tested my stool. I've tested the bacteria in my gut. I've tested my micronutrients. I really optimized just about everything you could do from the body, my diet, my sleep. I was hacking and hacking away everything. And I found a new practitioner that I was working with, and I sent her everything. I probably sent her, man, I don't know how she's read through it all. I probably sent her hundreds of pages on my reports. And she did a couple intake interviews on me, and then she said, "Can I give you my opinion?" And I said, "Sure. What is it?" She goes, "I think you're stressed out and you don't even realize it." And I was like, "Oh, okay. All right." Not what I thought it was like, okay, you need to take another supplement or you need to sleep a little bit different or you need to, change something. And I was really kind of taken back by it. And so when I think about the difference between optimizing my mindset and then being able to sustain myself under pressure, I, I think what we can do is we can tend to hyper focus on like mindset and like, hey, discipline, and hey, let's get everything. You got to be really stringent. You got to be really hyper focused on this stuff. To me, we might be optimizing ourselves for a certain goal, right? That is going to put our body, our mind, and then the reason you're doing it for your family, right? You're doing it for maybe significant other, you're doing it for kids, all that other stuff starts to decay, right? So I think what you're talking about is how do you sustain performance under pressure, but not at the cost of everything else, right? I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
And, the short answer is it's a bit of a process. I had to check off a lot of boxes to come to realize that it's how I perceived stress, right? I'll give you an example. I started my first podcast probably almost about 8 years ago. And when I would get on a podcast, when I'd be interviewed, when I do my own episodes, I was really heightened. My stress, you could see it in my body, my posture, my spine. I was just really stressed out, right? And I was optimizing my mindset. I was like, oh, I'm going to hyperfixate on this. I got all my mental models dialed in. I'm doing this and doing that. When I came to realize, again, I know I'm a broken record, it was all stress. I can come on to a podcast and I can talk to you and I can be present with you in a way that I've never been before, right? I'm not stressed out about what I'm going to say. I'm not concerned about is someone going to misrepresent what I'm going to say. My stress is just somewhere else. It doesn't exist, actually.
Yeah.
So I think sustainable performance under pressure is about managing your day-to-day stress. And again, I'm going to highlight this again, and I'm going to sound like a broken record. I mean, if you want to just stop listening to the podcast already, because I'm going to say the same thing over again another 10 different times, is it's how your body responds to anything going on. It's called stimuli, how your body responds as an executive to an email, to a phone call. Those are the things. It's not the big meetings because, like, yeah, I'll admit I've been stressed out when I've still had big things, but it's how your body responds to the small things on a daily day basis that's going to lead you to a sustainable way to handle. And then it's not going to ever feel like you're under pressure.
Yeah.
Pressure indicates and assumes that there is pressure. Once you take the stress out, there's no pressure anymore.
Yeah. It's I guess it's part of our philosophy at EPM to help men to create like an anchor for stress. And looking at like mantras, music, movement. As we both know, EPM's more about mind, body, and spirit, and it's not just about health, it's about wealth, it's about relationships, and it's about health together, the three most important things. And when it comes down to it, like obviously a lot of these men, like you said, they have to hear it over and over again because we're linking back to the computer program that's going on. They need that constant reminders, and that's why they love EPM's tracking because it's basically just daily giving them the little reminders to rewire those habits. Because I feel like we both know, like high-end high performers have two choices. They have the choice to be climbing the mountain of success and getting to the top, being disconnected, burnt out, and unfulfilled, even if they got $100 million in the bank, or they've got a choice to be at the top of the mountain, refreshed, energized, and with ultimate fulfillment and gratitude with themselves because they've stayed connected and used systems to enhance peak performance. And I do believe like what you do is probably one of the most important things because as we know, we have an EEG and an EKG, like our emotional, heart and our brain are connected. And if we can keep them connected, our body follows, like energy flows. And if we can, look at our calendars and go, what is draining my energy? What can I delegate? And it's about taking time to save time. Um, Julian, third question. Julian, many of your clients and men in the EPM legacy are leading and juggling at scale with time demands and obviously personal well-being involved. How do you help executives transform stress from a performance inhibitor to a skill that can be managed and leveraged?
Well, we got to stop looking at stress as the enemy to eliminate. It's not. If you start looking at it like that, that's another battle. Now you're battling stress reduction, right? So it's the first thing is to realize that stress is not self-imposed. It's the body protecting you, right? So we have to understand where it's coming from and what it is, right? So this stress is. Um, again, the public believes it's self-induced. It's not self-induced. It is something that is just happening within the system. So the first thing that we have to do is understand it's there and where is it. That's the first place we have to start is where is it happening? So as I've repeated multiple times on this podcast is when we're talking here with our clients at EPM Legacy, we talk to them and ask them, hey, when you get an email, just listen to how your body's feeling, right? Try to notice your body. Try to notice what's just happening, right? Do you think, I'll give you an example for myself. If I'm writing an email that there's a little bit of discomfort because I have to communicate with a team member, I have to communicate maybe some bad news to a customer, there tends to be in my body an uncomfortable feeling. I'll immediately have to go to the bathroom. That just starts to happen. Then I start to get tired, or I start to think about other things that are priorities. So once you start to notice these things, these little things that are happening around you, first thing is stop, breathe into it. So as an example, if I'm writing a discomfort email, let's make it something that's probably feels common for a lot of our executives. They got to communicate with the customer some bad news, right? And you got to do it tactfully because you don't want to lose the client, right? That seems to be a common one that our executives hear. Notice when you're writing the email what your body's doing. Breathe into it. Take a moment. Feel the discomfort. And instead of saying it's the enemy, thank it and give it a thank you. It's really interesting. And say thank you because it's your body trying to protect you. The email that news might end up creating, you might have to let go a quarter of your staff because that's how big that client is, right? So based on the news and how the news is interpreted by your client, a lot is at stake in just that email. And it's discomforting to write. So once you sit with it and you give it thanks, you take a look and see what happens, right? You thank it, you see how you feel, and now you're taking a moment. That would be the quickest way to doing this is you can use this to transform your stress. Instead of thinking stress as the enemy, you think stress as a protector. It's trying to protect you from something. And if you give it thanks and you give it gratitude for what it's trying to do to you for you, right? You'll notice a shift.
Yeah. Obviously we're both really big on life happens, life's not happening to you, it's happening for you.
Yeah.
Like, and I like to link your answer to discipline increases self-worth, and like if we start to reframe our thinking around stress, then it's going to increase our performance. But it's also going to give us the energy to create that email that's going to be interpreted by the client in a way that's understanding and in a calmer, obviously, space. So, and it's the same with you. If you think about that with a leader who has 4,000 staff members, which some of our guys do in EPM Legacy, and they're having to have a really heartfelt conversation with a senior executive that's not performing at his best. This gives him a little bit of like clarity of how to speak to that person and how to approach them, but also takes the stress away from doing it because we all know that most, high performers have to have these really real conversations with people all the time, So obviously this is a skill. Um, Julian, next question. Julian, when it comes to peak performance at work and in life, most people focus on tactics, calendars, tools, routines. From behavioral coaching lens, what's the deepest lever that drives long-term productivity and fulfillment?
Yeah, I feel like everything I'm going to say is about stress. So maybe we got to come up with something a little bit different. So your question is what's the deeper long term, like what's a productivity hack for fulfillment? Well, I mean, like, look, I think what's really captivating for me is why do I do all of this? Right. I think some of our executives have convinced themselves that they're doing this for their families. And then if you talk with their families, which we've done so in the past, I've talked to some of the families and done my own research. What you hear from the families is the families just want the executive, they want our client, they want their client's attention. Um, the executive and the CEO believes they're trying to build generational wealth. They're trying to build something for their family, and they convince themselves that they are doing it for their family when all the family wants is just time with them. So I think there needs to be some thought on to really why are we striving so hard? What is all this success really for at the end of the day? How many more zeros is gonna satisfy us? How many more zeros do we need in the bank account to feel that our family is cared for? So I think when it comes to that long-term productivity and most important, the fulfillment is, are you doing it for the right reasons? And once you start to remove some of the underlying, so you mentioned some of the work that we do here at EPM Legacy. Um, we help rewrite some of those narratives under the code base, right at the core of the code base, where you're not operating from a panicked state of urgency needing to do. You're able to come back and really realize why you might be doing what you're be doing. What are the real decisions? What are the implications? And you'll just have more clarity. I mean, hey, if you need to go and build the next unicorn and close your next round, if you need to do a $8 billion exit, by all means, we're happy to help you and help you to achieve. But what we find most cases, more times than not, executives are operating out of urgency, and executives are operating from this um, facade, long-term facade that's not really real. And when I've interviewed some later career professionals, CEOs, and executives who have retired or close to retiring, they've kind of questioned, why did they do it all?
Yeah. It's leading back to obviously a couple of the guys that we have helped throughout working with guys in the EPM legacy. I think some of the best fulfillment parts is actually being connected to their family, because a lot of them are not only leading down a path of insulin resistance, diabetes, all these other issues, but most of them are borderline almost in divorce, which is obviously very costly for someone who runs a company or a busy executive. And I think, when you can align that relationship and health, and that leads to that fulfillment. But as you know, like looking obviously with Val and working with the team, looking at a lot of DNA and blood work data, a lot of high performers have a lower dopamine response, which means they're chasing, they're chasing, they're chasing, and that dopamine can be increased by being connected to their families and giving their families exactly what they want, which is their presence. And obviously the blood work, looking at high stress and oxidative stress, methylation, and all these issues that are causing, accelerated aging and all these sort of things are also lowering testosterone, which is lowering their mood. So like obviously enhancing the mind enhances the body. And it leads to a more present and more fulfilled, more energized executive. Because I think what we do is more about the whole, like I said, the mind, body, spirit, and we do repeat each other, and that's how I coach people as well. Because we're like two men in the woods. We're chopping at the tree with the axe in the same spot. We're not chopping all over the place. We're just defining habits that align with their biology and also their mindset. Julian, one of my last questions, Julian, based on your own journey, and leading and coaching men in EPM legacy, what's the single most overlooked biohack for resilience, and habits that actually move the needle for energy, focus, and emotional control?
Pause and breath. These are the two most overlooked, simplest things that don't require an abundance of time or discipline. Right before you write the email, right before you step into the meeting, right before you meet your client, right before you do the big pitch, a small pause with some breaths. You can close your eyes, take a moment, and give yourself 5 to 10 conscious, deep breaths. And if you want to push it a little further with some hold, so we'll just do the cycle here for just a second. So, Michael, close your eyes, find your body, find your space within. When you're ready, take a big, deep breath in. It's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and let it go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how simple. And that was just one breath. And I bet, and you can tell me just by that one breath, do you feel a little different?
Yeah, and yeah, it's definitely the best little biohack. And like obviously you'll see the top performers in the room, like subconsciously do this without thinking about it, without having the habit. They'll just start taking even like 9 deep nasal breaths before they step into a meeting, just so they're lowering that cortisol and creating that energy and focus. One of my little hacks that I like to give the guys at EPM when they're doing back-to-back meetings, because there's obviously a lot of cognitive overload, is obviously if it's really back to back, just even the nasal breathing for 8 rounds for a minute, and having a little bit of pink salt in a small glass of water, which is going to hydrate their cells and like obviously help them with their cognitive decisions they need to make. But I guess it like for you and me, Julian, I think we're stepping into EPM legacies like that new age of executive. And I think we have a lot of men that live the old work hard and grind, because I'm going to lead back to what you said about I need to work hard and grind and provide for my family. And as we know, this is one of those programs that was taught by the grandparents who taught their fathers who taught them, and they're passing this habit on to the next generation. And I think it comes down to being, like breath is proven, and I don't know any top executive who doesn't do a ritual of some sort of breath work that isn't absolutely crushing it in life. They're more present in decisions and lots more. So I guess a little follow up for that, Julian. If someone listening today could implement only one change in the next 30 days, what would you say they prioritize most?
Oh, that's such a good one. So let's just keep it super simple. If there's one change that you could prioritize in the next 30 days that wasn't your breath, I'm going to use that kind of as a filter. If it wasn't for your breath, is notice when you become uncomfortable. Notice when you become uncomfortable. You may not even realize that you're uncomfortable because uncomfortable is so familiar, right? So then you might have to notice behaviors. Notice when you get upset. Notice when you get angry. It's actually one of my favorites is notice when you get angry. And some people, some of our executives, get angry a lot. And notice when you have that anger, notice when you have that unsettling feeling, notice it. And you don't need to do anything with it. It's not an enemy, it's not something to get rid of. Just notice it. And if you can start with that, that's when my life started to change, when I started to notice how unsettled I felt.
Yeah. And I think just to end that question, I think it's very common that we see our high performers getting that anger towards the end of the day. And this leads into when their family wants them to be present with them. And a lot of our men report that they're fine all day with their teams. They're making decisions, their clients and teams, but when they come home, they they feel this anger. They don't feel this connection, and that pushes their family away. So obviously, doing this can lead to that fulfillment. Julian, I wanted to finish off with my famous rapid fire question. So I want to get you prepared for these answers, just as quick as you can on the spot. I wanted you to respond to these questions. Julian, what's the most important lesson you've learned as a high performing CEO?
Nothing needs to be done right now.
What's one daily habit that has the biggest impact on your productivity?
Breathing, intentional breath.
If you could give yourself one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
You don't need to suffer to earn your success.
Very good answer. What's the best investment you've ever made in your business?
Investment in myself, specifically how my body responds to stress and how my nervous system was really just trying to protect me the whole time.
Beautiful answer. How do you handle stress and stay focused under pressure? I'm sure we've answered that.
We've hit it time and time again, but we'll do some bro. So the way I handle stress when it comes to me is I thank it for being there, and I give it gratitude, and then I breathe into it, and then whatever happens there happens next.
And what's one book or resource you recommend to inspiring leaders?
Oh man, there's a ton of them. One of the ones that I really liked is Alan Watts. Alan Watts has been a really good one. He's got a lot of really good content out there, sort of talking about this idea of stillness and not searching and just being, and that the thing that you're searching for. He likes to say it. Imagine a fish has been in water its whole life, and it's looking for water. It's like you're walking around with your glasses on your head, and everyone else is walking around with glasses on their head, and everyone's looking for glasses, and you're all looking at each other trying to find the glasses. And then one day you just realize the glasses are on top of your head the whole time, and then you just laugh about it.
Yeah. It's funny that on that question, just to like I like to always read Think and Grow Rich. And I think a lot of people in life have the gold. They fear walking into the cave, you know. So we always find the treasure that we're seeking in the cave that we don't want to enter. And you know, what we need in life is usually right in front of us. And if we can clear all the noise, we can clearly see that. Last question for you, Julian. What's your drink of choice?
I think it's completely underrated. Water.
Yeah, awesome. I knew you were going to answer that one that way. So, Julian, I wanted to personally, after working with you personally and seeing my business zeros increase, my family fulfillment, my focus, my strategy, I just wanted to say thank you for the work you've personally done with myself. And I can't recommend you highly enough. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me on the EPM Legacy podcast.
It's been incredible, Michael. It's a testament to the work we're doing out here, because I think if we impact the lives of CEOs and executives, we're not only impacting the lives of them, their families, and their employees, but all the customers they serve. So our impact here at EPM Legacy is going to transcend companies, because it's going to really impact the world, because these companies have so many customers and they're able to do so much. So the more that we continue to help our executives, the more we can implement and help the world become a better place.
Thank you for tuning in today, and I hope you found the discussion useful. Our goal is to positively impact the well-being of 1 million people's lives just like you by sharing the experience and knowledge of some of the world's top performers. So you don't miss out on any key strategies to help you succeed, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. And if you think you may know someone that would benefit from this episode, join us in our mission of impacting 1 million lives and share it with your friends.